Hi, I'm Gary Stewart with Stewart Teamwork Solutions. In this episode of SharePoint Basic Training, we'll be talking about SharePoint content types. The material we'll be covering today is very basic SharePoint functionality and is targeted towards newer users of SharePoint. You may be wondering, what is a SharePoint content type? And basically, a content type is a template or a group of columns or data fields that are used to define some type of entity within SharePoint. Now, SharePoint comes with many built-in content types. Plus, you can create your own custom content types, which is something we'll get to a little bit later in this episode. First, let's take a look at the built-in content types in SharePoint. And to do that, just click on the settings or the gear icon at the top of the page, select Site Settings, and then you'll see in the Web Designer Galleries section, there's a link for site content types. So click on that. And here you can see the list of content types. In this case, I've got some custom content types built already, and you can also see all of the built-in content types that come in SharePoint. Now, if you look at this page, you can see there's the site content type name grouped by different categories. It also shows the parent content type for these content types and the source of that content type. In this case, the source is all coming from this site, SharePoint Basic Training. And if you scroll down through to the item content type, which is under list content types, you can see that its parent is a system content type. So the item is really the most basic content type that comes with SharePoint. And if you look through the list, you can see that a lot of other content types are based on the item content type. So let's take a look at the item content type by clicking on the link. And here you can see that it's very simple. All it contains is a title column, single line of text. In this case, it's defined as being required. So you might be saying, well, that's great. Where do these content types actually come into play? So if you go to Site Contents and add an app for SharePoint, click on Add an App. And in this case, once that loads, we'll select Custom List. We'll just give it a test list name. We won't be using this for anything really. We'll create that. And then you can see here's the new test list. If we go to the settings for the test list, you'll see that it just contains the title, which is a single line of text, which came from the item content type, as well as some of the other fields that you traditionally see that are system fields that SharePoint creates. Now, if we go to advanced settings and then click on allow management of content types, it'll become a little more apparent where the content type is associated with this list. So select allow management of content types there at the top of the page and click OK. And now if you scroll down, you can see here it shows you the content types that are associated with this list. And there it is, item. If you click on item, it takes you back to the item content type that we looked at previously. Now let's take a look at a little bit more complicated content type. So click on the gear icon, go back to site settings, go to site content types again. And this time, let's scroll down through the list and find the issues content type. You can see it's based on item. If we open that up, you'll see it contains the title column that comes from item. In addition, it contains several other columns that have been added to define an issue content type in SharePoint. Now, if we go back to site contents this time and add an app again, if you scroll down through on this page, you can see there is an issue tracking app. So let's just add an issue tracking app. We'll call it issues and create that. And here's our Issues app. If we go to the settings for the Issues app, and again go to Advanced Settings, enable the management of content types by clicking yes there, and then click OK. Now you can see that it has the issue content type, and that's where the fields for this new issues list are defined. Got assigned to, category, comments, so on and so forth, title. And there you can see that SharePoint's using a content type to create a standard issues list. So anytime you create an issues list in SharePoint, it's using the issues content type, and you're getting those fields automatically. You don't have to go in and create your own issues list and define each column that you want to have in that list. You just have to select the issues list, and since it is associated with the issues content type, that work's already done for you. So in addition to the built-in content types in SharePoint, you can also create your own custom content types. Now you might be asking, why would I want to do that? So let's take a look at an example to illustrate where that might be beneficial. Let's say your organization executes projects for your clients, and you use SharePoint to track your projects. You create a project subsite for each project, and you use those subsites to collect the various information that you need to maintain for your project. So in this case, we've got a project list on our site here. This site lists our projects. It gives us a link to the project sites. At this point, these project sites are blank. They don't contain any information. If you click on the link, take a look, you'll see there's nothing there. Now let's assume that one of the things you want to keep track of for your projects are the project issues that arise during the course of the project. Now you could simply add a issues list like we saw earlier. So go to Site Contents and add an app and add issue tracking. And we'll just call this Project Issues and hit Create. So you've got your project issues list. If you click on that, there you can see it. You've got your issue ID, title assigned to, and so forth. Now, what if you want to track other information? Maybe you want to assign a project number for each issue. Maybe you want to put in client information for each issue. Regardless of what you want to do, there are other bits of information that you want to have captured with each item on your issue list. Now, you could go into the list and modify the list, clicking on the List Settings button in the ribbon. You could go in here and create a new column to add to that list, and that would work. But the downside to that is, what if you have 100 projects and you have 100 project sites? Then for each one of those sites, you're going to have to go in, create the project issues list, and then go modify that list, and that can turn into a lot of work. There's an easier way to do this, and you can do it by using custom site content types. So let's take a look at how you would create a custom content type for your project issues. So the first thing we'll do is delete this list that we just created because we won't need it any longer in this episode. So we'll get rid of that. And then to create your custom content type, click on the gear icon, go to Site Settings, and you can see Site Content Types under Web Designer Galleries, but we're not going to click on that here because you can see we're in the Project 1 subsite. And if we create a site content type in this subsite, it will only be available to this subsite and any subsites we create below it. And that's not what we want. We want this content type to be available to every project site that we create. So we want to go to the top level site settings. So click there, and then on this page, select site content types. So to create a site content type, you simply click the create link at the top. And in here, you give your site content type a name. In this case, we'll call it project issues. And then you've got to select the parent content type. You saw earlier that many content types and many of the built-in content types have item as their parent content type. We could select item. If we scroll down to list content types, you could then select item. If we do that, then our project issues content type will only contain the title column that we saw earlier in the items content type. So we know we want issues, so we're just going to select the issue content type, and that way we'll have those other columns that we are interested in. We'll put the new content type in our custom content type location and hit OK. SharePoint will go ahead and create that content type for you. You can see here we have project issues. It's based on issue. It's contained in our custom content type location. And you can see that it's brought over all of the fields that are associated with the built-in issues content type in SharePoint. Now we want to add some other information to this content type that we'll use for all of our project issues lists. So to do that, we'll click Add from Existing Site Columns, in this case, because I've already created the site columns that I want to use for this list. So we click on that. Now in this case, our custom site column is contained in our custom columns location, and we want to assign the customer to each issue. We want to associate the issue with the customer. We'll use our customer lookup field, our lookup column for that. We hit Add, and we hit OK. Here we can see that the customer lookup is now added to our project issues content type. We might also like to add the project number to our issues content type. In this case, I don't have a site column for that yet, so we can add from a new site column by clicking this link. We'll call it project num lookup. We will look up the information already on the site. We're going to put this column in our custom column category, and we're going to get the information for this lookup from our project list. And in this case, we'll take the project number. That way we can just have a drop down, we'll select the project number, and everything will work fine. So click OK. And there you can see we've got the customer lookup, we've got the project number lookup. And these are all columns that are contained in our project issues site content type. So that's great. So now we can use this site content type to create the project issues list in any project site that we have. So let's do that. So now let's see how we can use this content type that we've just created. If we go to one of our project sites, say project 1 here, now we can add an app to this project site. So add an app. And in this case, we'll have to choose custom list. There's no app built for us based on the custom content type we just created. So the best way to use it is just start with the custom list app. In this case, we'll call it project issues and hit the create button. And there you'll see we've got the project issues list. Let's modify the settings for that list. Now, since we just created a custom list, all it has right now is the item content type associated with it, and that's not what we want. So we're going to have to go to advanced settings, allow the management of content types by clicking yes at the top, click the OK button. And now we can see it's got the item content type, but we want to add from existing site content types. So let's pick from our custom content type group, and there's our project issues content type. We'll add that and say OK. Now SharePoint will add that content type to this list, and as soon as it's done, we'll take a look at what we do next. Okay, so here we are. We've got content types. We've got items. Right now we've got two content types associated with this list, item and project issues. Now we don't want to keep the item content type associated with it. So let's go click on item and then click on delete this content type. And don't worry, that's just deleting the content type from this list. It's not deleting the content type from SharePoint. Click OK. And now we've got just the project issues content type, which is what we wanted. We can see our fields that we brought over, that we defined in the project issues content type. And so that's exactly what we're looking for. Now you'll have to modify the view for this to include all these fields that you want to see, but that's simple. Just click on the all items under the views section, and then you can add those fields. So we want to have an assigned to, we'd like the category. We would like to have the customer lookup that we added into our custom content type. Description and due date are all good to have. Issue status we want. Priority we want. Project number lookup we want. You click OK. So now if we add a new item to this list, just give it a name, issue number 1, issue 1. It's active, normal. We can put a description in there, category. You may want to modify the category choice fields so that they mean more, that they're more meaningful to you. Due date. And here's our fields: customer lookup. This was for company A. It was for project 1. Save. And there you have it. So now that you've seen how to create site content types, you might be asking yourself, why do I want to create content types? And there are a number of advantages to using content types in SharePoint. First of all, there's the reusability factor. As you saw in the example we walked through, well, once we created that project issues content type, it was very easy to create a project issues list that uses that content type in every project site that we create. It's much quicker than having to go into each project site and create a list and add columns to that list, as opposed to just assigning a content type to that list and you're done. So reusability is a key advantage. Another advantage is consistency. By using content types, you can assure that the lists you create based on those content types contain the fields you need. The alternative would be to have people create their own lists and hope that they got the fields correct, or hope that they got the columns correct, and you would inevitably end up with some variations that you wouldn't want. So consistency is another key advantage of content types. A third advantage is the ease of modification. We've created a project issues content type and added a few custom fields to that for project number lookups and customer lookups. And suppose that was fine for now, and you've created hundreds of project sites using that content type, and now there's a requirement to have a new field of data recorded with your project issues. If you hadn't used content types, that means you'd have to go into each project site and manually modify each list to update it to include the new data fields that you want to use. With content types, however, you simply go into the content type, add the new column to the content type, and save it. And that change automatically is sent down through all the lists that are based on that content type. So the difference is between making one change to a content type versus making hundreds of changes to lists within project sites. Search is another feature that can use content types. We're not going to go into how you create custom search criteria in SharePoint in this episode. However, you can specify that search looks in specific content types for information that searchers are looking for, and that can be a powerful feature as well. And finally, workflows can be assigned to content types. So that means if anytime a project issue, for example, is created, you may want to send an email to someone. You can create a workflow, assign it to that content type, and then wherever that content type is created in any project site, once it's created, it will fire off that workflow and do what you want it to do without without the need to go in and create list workflows for each of the lists that use that content type. So that's another powerful feature of content types. Thanks for watching this episode of SharePoint Basic Training, and please check out my website at www.stsonpoint.com.